7 hidden manipulation techniques used against you every day. I've often wondered about the nature of free will. We like to believe we're the captains of our own ships, steering through life with complete autonomy. But the truth I've come to understand is far more unsettling and infinitely more fascinating. Every single day, invisible forces tug at the strings of our decision-making, and most of us never even notice. Think about your last major decision. Did you really make it independently, or were you guided by subtle pressures you didn't recognize? In my years observing human behavior, I've realized that manipulation isn't always the sinister force we see in movies. It's often wrapped in kindness, hidden in silence, or disguised as love. Today, I want to pull back the curtain on 7 manipulation techniques that shape your reality more than you know. Not to make you paranoid, but to set you free. The 7 shadow techniques. 1. Love bombing, the overwhelming tide. I remember watching a friend fall into this trap. One day, she was cautious about a new romantic interest. The next, she was completely consumed. Love bombing is like drinking from a fire hose when you're only slightly thirsty. It's overwhelming, disorienting, and surprisingly effective. This technique floods you with excessive attention, praise, and affection right from the start. The manipulator becomes your entire world almost instantly. They text you constantly, shower you with gifts, tell you you're their soulmate after 2 dates. It feels incredible because we're hardwired to crave validation and connection. Why it works? Our brains release dopamine when we receive unexpected rewards. Love bombers create an addiction to their attention, making you dependent on that emotional high. When they eventually withdraw it, and they always do, you'll do almost anything to get it back. Real-world example? Your new boss praises everything you do in the first month, calls you indispensable, promises rapid advancement. You work extra hours unpaid, cancel personal plans. Then suddenly, the praise stops. Now you're working even harder, desperate to recapture that initial approval. How to spot it. Watch for intensity that doesn't match the timeline. Genuine relationships build gradually. If someone is acting like you're their everything before they truly know you, that's a red flag waving in hurricane winds. How to defend. Slow down. Create boundaries. Real love respects your pace and your need for space. If someone makes you feel guilty for wanting to take things slowly, you've found your answer. This one chills me to my core because it attacks the very foundation of your sanity. Gaslighting is the systematic denial of your reality until you doubt your own memory, perception, and judgment. I've seen it destroy confident people, reducing them to shadows of themselves. The manipulator contradicts your memories, denies things they clearly said or did, and suggests you're too sensitive, too emotional, or simply crazy. We need cognitive consistency to function. When someone repeatedly challenges our perception of reality, especially someone we trust, our brains start to question themselves. It's actually less psychologically painful to doubt ourselves than to accept that someone we care about is deliberately lying to us. You confront a colleague about taking credit for your idea in a meeting. They look genuinely confused and say, "I never said that was my idea. You're misremembering. Are you feeling okay? You seem stressed lately." Other colleagues who heard everything stay silent. You walk away wondering if you imagined it all. Keep records. If you find yourself constantly second-guessing your memory around someone, that's the signal. Trust the pattern, not the individual instance. Document everything. Keep emails, texts, journal entries. Trust your gut when something feels wrong. Seek outside perspectives from people who aren't involved in the relationship. Foot in the door. The tiny yes that leads to giant yeses. In my observations, this is perhaps the most widespread manipulation technique because it feels so innocent. Someone asks you for a small favor, something you'd feel petty refusing. then another, then another. Before you know it, you've agreed to something you never would have considered at the start. We have a deep psychological need for consistency. Once we've said yes to small requests, our brain labels us as someone who helps this person. Saying no to larger requests feels like betraying our own identity. A neighbor asks to borrow a cup of sugar, then it's eggs, then could you watch their dog for an hour, then a weekend, then 2 weeks while they vacation. Each step seems reasonable given the previous one, but you'd never have agreed to 2 weeks of free pet sitting from a stranger. Notice the pattern of escalating requests. Pay attention to how you feel. If you're helping out of genuine desire or obligation based on past yeses, evaluate each request independently. Your past generosity doesn't obligate your future. I helped before, but this doesn't work for me is a complete sentence. Silent treatment, the weapon of absence. I find this technique particularly cruel because it weaponizes our fundamental human need for connection. The manipulator withdraws all communication, affection, and acknowledgement, leaving you in agonizing uncertainty. The silence screams louder than any argument. You don't know exactly what you did wrong, how long it will last, or what you need to do to fix it. So you chase them, apologize for things you may not have done, and often compromise your own boundaries just to end the excruciating silence. Humans are social creatures. Ostracism activates the same brain regions as physical pain. Studies have shown that being ignored is more psychologically damaging than being directly confronted. You disagree with your partner about holiday plans. Instead of discussing it, they stop responding to your texts, give you one-word answers, act like you don't exist. After 3 days of this psychological torture, you cave completely to their original plan just to have them acknowledge you again. Healthy people communicate, even during conflict. If someone routinely goes silent as a response to disagreement, they're not protecting themselves, they're controlling you. Don't chase. Set a boundary. I'm here when you're ready to talk like adults. Then genuinely detach your emotional state from their silence. Seek validation elsewhere. Guilt tripping has always fascinated me because it corrupts something beautiful, our capacity for empathy, into a weapon. The guilt tripper makes you feel responsible for their emotions, their circumstances, even their choices. They frame your reasonable boundaries as acts of cruelty. Your self-care becomes selfishness. Your dreams become betrayals. Most of us are taught from childhood to be considerate of others' feelings. Manipulators exploit this by making their happiness your responsibility. We're conditioned to avoid guilt, so we sacrifice ourselves to escape that uncomfortable feeling. You tell your mother you can't visit this weekend because you need rest. She responds, "I guess I'll just be alone again. I was so looking forward to seeing you, but don't worry about me. I'm used to disappointment. Your siblings always make time." Now your restful weekend is consumed by guilt and probably ends with you driving 3 hours while exhausted. Listen for phrases like, "After all I've done for you, I guess I'm not important," or "You're making me feel." Notice if your valid needs are consistently reframed as moral failings. Remember that you're responsible for your choices, not their feelings about your choices. Their disappointment is not your emergency. Healthy people can hear no without making you feel like a villain. Mirroring, the chameleon's trap. I've watched this technique seduce even the most discerning people. Mirroring is when someone becomes your perfect match by reflecting your interests, values, opinions, and even body language back to you. We all do this unconsciously to build rapport, but manipulators weaponize it. They create an illusion of profound connection and compatibility by becoming whoever you need them to be. We're attracted to similarity. Finding someone who just gets us feels like discovering a soulmate. Our brains release oxytocin, the bonding hormone, when we feel understood. the manipulator becomes addictive precisely because they seem to complete us. You mention in passing that you love hiking. Your new friend suddenly reveals they're passionate about hiking too. You discuss your values, and miraculously, they share every single one. You feel seen and understood. Months later, you realize they never actually go hiking. Their values shift depending on who they're with, and you don't really know who they are at all. Pay attention to consistency over time. Do they have stable interests and values, or do they shift to match whoever they're with? Notice if they have any opinions that differ from yours. Healthy relationships include differences. Take time before trusting. Watch their behavior across contexts. Real compatibility includes both similarities and respected differences. Intermittent reinforcement, the slot machine of human relationships. This is perhaps the most psychologically sophisticated technique on our list, and in my research, it's the hardest pattern to break. Intermittent reinforcement is when rewards, affection, approval, kindness come unpredictably. Sometimes the manipulator is wonderful, sometimes they're cruel, and you never know which version you'll get. This unpredictability is more addictive than consistent behavior, positive or negative. Neuroscience has proven that unpredictable rewards trigger more dopamine than predictable ones. It's why gambling is addictive. You stay engaged, always hoping the next interaction will be the good one, always believing you can crack the code to consistent kindness. Your romantic partner is incredibly loving and attentive some days, cold and dismissive others. There's no clear pattern. You start analyzing everything you do, trying to figure out what triggers their good moods. You become hyper-vigilant, walking on eggshells, celebrating the brief moments of warmth while enduring the long stretches of coldness. You stay because you remember how good it can be. Chart the pattern. If you're constantly confused about where you stand with someone, if you feel like you're always auditioning for their affection, that's intermittent reinforcement. Recognize that this isn't love, it's a cycle of abuse. Consistent kindness should be the baseline, not the rare exception you're grateful for. You deserve predictable respect. The deeper truth, why we're vulnerable. I've spent countless hours contemplating why these techniques work so effectively. The answer both humbles and empowers me. We're vulnerable because we're human. Every manipulation technique exploits something beautiful about our nature. Love bombing works because we want to be cherished. Gaslighting succeeds because we strive to see the good in people. The foot in the door technique leverages our integrity and consistency. Silent treatment hurts because we're wired for connection. Guilt tripping exploits our empathy. Mirroring succeeds because we long to be understood. Intermittent reinforcement works because we're hopeful and persistent. These aren't weaknesses, they're the very qualities that make us capable of genuine love, deep friendship, and meaningful community. The manipulator's skill isn't in creating these needs, it's in twisting them for their benefit. Conclusion: knowledge is your shield. Here's what I want you to understand. Awareness is not paranoia. Recognizing these patterns doesn't mean becoming cynical or distrustful of everyone. It means becoming discerning. You are not powerless. Every technique I've described has a counter, and that counter is always rooted in the same foundations: self-awareness, boundaries, and the courage to trust your perceptions. The manipulator's greatest weapon is your doubt. Doubt in your memory, your worth, your right to say no. Take that weapon away. Document your reality. Honor your feelings. Remember that healthy relationships don't require you to sacrifice your sanity, your boundaries, or your sense of self. You are the author of your story, not a character in someone else's manipulation. These techniques only work in darkness, in confusion, in isolation. Bring them into the light. Talk about them. Recognize them. And when you do, you'll find something remarkable happens. The strings become visible. Invisible strings can be cut.